Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I would like to share with you all, I've pulled 5 knives out of my personal collection that I believe are urban, hard to use knives. And I'm not talking about like blue collar, I worked 85 hours today kind of knives. I'm talking about just you know, in an urban living environment, what are some knives that you can not really shy away from doing possible inappropriate use? I'm talking about some light prying, some scraping, not really worrying about, like heavily damaging the knife. Some of them are pretty expensive, but I do have a couple I guess budget options. We're gonna go ahead and actually start from the most expensive. Um, Technically the first and the second one, there's a little bit difference in price, but because of some upgrades, the prices fluctuate quite a bit. But either way, let's just get into it. So 5 of them to start. And the first one is going to be my Hinderer XM18 3.5 inch. This is the slicer blade profile with the choil or the non-flipper variation. This has a crazy, ridiculous name, but it's really just in specification of the blade length and the overall size and the fact that it doesn't have the traditional Hinderer flipper tab, which I think the Hinderer knives that have the flipper tabs, I think they are ugly as all hell, and that's just of course a visual preference. This is going to be really the one for me. I did used to have the 3-inch variation, but at least for me, this is my sweet spot. I have been so happy having this in my collection, and I believe I found it on NAF sale. I got it for regular retail price. I think it was around $4.50. Yes, it is a good chunk of money, but we're talking US production, small batch, small drop. The frequency of drops and with how fast Hinderer Knives is actually able to produce stuff has gone up tremendously just within this last year. I'm very excited to see what they do this year. Eventually, I do want to get a matching working stonewash finish tie scale to fit over this, because this is originally just the JG10. This has seen a good bit of modifications. I've actually had about 3 opportunities ever since I got this knife to get that exact scale that I want for this, and it would be an impulse buy just to complete the build. As this is, I love it for what it is, but of course there are the couple little issues with Hinderer knives. It's a very controversial brand and how they carry themselves and how they operate when it comes to social media and all that garbage essentially. But talking about the knife as is, this is thick, this is juicy, it's freaking awesome. While it is called the slicer blade shape, and they do make a skinny, and I'm not sure if they make a thick one in this particular pattern, but I know that they do make a skinny. This is just a standard thickness one. It's thick, it's freaking juicy. You can do a lot of stupid shit with this if you really wanted to, and I do have a good bit of faith in that traditional frame lock there, so you can put a lot of force behind this particular knife. And of course it has the tri-way system, so you can put Teflon, you can put regular phosphor bronze washers or bearings. I have the bearings in here. I ran it for a while with the washers. It was a very enjoyable experience, but I wanted to go back to the bearings just because I like bearings. With this particular knife, I prefer bearings. While I can appreciate washers on other designs, I think this is really fun with bearings. So this thing is awesome for what it is. Again, it is expensive, yes, but there is some customization that you could do with it. Your limitation is really going to be your wallet and your imagination with what you can do to it. As is, I've done all the anodization on here, all the steel components, they were flame treated, they're all steel, so it was a little difficult to color match, but I think I got it pretty well, and I'm happy with this. So you do have some of the issues like softer blade material, but hey, at least you're not going to chip it, you'll just roll the shit out of the edge. But even still, I've enjoyed this for what it is. So there's that guy. Next one, this is going to be another US production knife with some upgrades, which in a way, you can look at it being more expensive than that Hinderer. Um, the scales here are full tie scales from original goat, and the original Doug Ritter RSK. This is the full size, the Magna Cut one. I got this on like the second production run of the Magna Cut. Now they've standardized to Magna Cut being on this, so it's no longer really a special thing, but it was a good memory. Definitely getting in on this early on, and makes me feel good, right? It makes me feel good. So this thing, again, very thick, a beautiful blade shape. It is a little bit thicker behind the edge, but it's still very fun to use. I think it's a beautiful looking design. It fits well on hands. Whether you do have just the original G10 scales, they have like the G Mascus ones and then other colored ones. This originally had the contoured carbon fiber. Those were beautiful. I have since sold my scales. Probably could have got a lot more than what I sold them for, but whoever's got them, I'm sure they're very happy with those scales because they were beautiful. But I'm happy with how this build came out. This is actually one of the few knives in my collection that hasn't been anodized. So if anybody has any suggestions on what I should do with this, go ahead and leave it down in the comments, because I don't know. I don't know what kind of color I want on this. So there's that. But again, beautiful blade shape, thick as all hell, and even out to that tip. The crossbar lock, so really the only thing to fail here would be the Omega springs. I have since put in some Chinese Omega springs because the US ones are dog shit, and I've broken them 3 times. I've owned this knife for, I'd say, a little bit over a year now, and I've busted 3 sets of Omega springs. And mind you, I have a shit ton of other knives, and this wasn't one that I carried like every day, all day long, and all week, whatever. It's just every once in a while that I would use it or fidget with it or take it apart, or you do kind of like any sort of internal maintenance. I'd bust a spring and it would piss me off. The customer service for Hogue Knives, the brand that produces this for Doug Ritter. If I've been referring to this as a Hinderer knife, I apologize. This is Doug Ritter, the designer, and Hogue is the one that produces it. Their customer service is incredible, but they'll still send you the soft Omega springs. Just do yourself a favor and just buy some cheap Chinese Omega springs. Somehow they're better, and it's just, this is living proof of it. It is much snappier, the lockup, it sounds better, it feels better when deployment. I'm able to actually tighten the pivot. While this particular design has washers in here, if you were to crank it down as much as you would crank down on a bearing pivot knife, it wouldn't have that kind of smooth operation. But with this, if you're gonna have the tiniest bit of side to side on this. So there's that guy. I believe the price on one of these is going to be right under 200 bucks, and I think it's worth it even for the G10 variations, because again, they've standardized Magna Cut, which is sick. Next one here, this is the last US production one, and then I have 2 overseas or Chinese made ones. This is the Microtech MSI, which sounds a little funny because MSI is Microtech standard issues, whatever. This is the model name, brand is Microtech. This is the only Microtech I have in my collection, and this is the FRN variation, or basically the cheapy plastic one. They do have a G10 one that I'm sure is much more substantial feeling in hand and just a little bit more robust overall. But here you have a very robust blade, a thick tip. You can do a lot of stupid shit with this one. The locking on this mechanism, the locking on this particular design, there is a lot of stuff that you're gonna see or have already seen on social media, where people are spine whacking it and it's failing. I believe that was some of the earlier stuff. This particular variation, I have whacked it like a chimp on crack and hasn't failed. No slip, no nothing, no disengagement, side to side play non-existent, up and down not there. So I count myself very lucky. If you hear the train, I'm sorry, I live like, I don't know, a mile away from the train tracks. But this thing's awesome. I actually have finally fully paid for my original GOAT gunstock titanium scales. You guys will see a video of me installing the scales. As this knife is, this is probably one of the best valued US production knife. It's well under $200. I think I got this guy for like $176 or something like that. It's awesome. It's been great. The blade material on this is the M390 MK, and really it's softer in my opinion. In use, I can tell when it comes to sharpening, and now it still takes an incredible edge, but it is softer. Regardless of whoever else you hear out there, my particular one, it just feels soft, and I notice it when I sharpen it. I've since put 2 edges on here. Even still, I love this knife. I do recommend it, and once I get those original GOAT titanium scales on here, this is going to be one hell of a piece for sure. That's really it. Oh, you also have a tab here so you can flip it around for the clip, but there's that guy. Now let's move into the Chinese production knives. This one I'll pull out also with along another US production one because they're similar. This is the CMB made knives Predator. Now it looks very similar to the RSK full size, but it is overall like 5-10% shrunken down, not by much. It's a tad bit more compact. Now they do make a mini RSK, but that one's like really small. The full size is definitely the more popular one, definitely. But I think that the Predator is a sweet spot. It's dirt freaking cheap. You have adjustability within the actual tension for the Omega springs. The Omega springs that come on here standard, they are significantly thicker than what would come on the Doug Ritter RSK. So the new ones that you were to pick up this particular knife, you actually have 3 different like tension settings. I have mine in the middle and it feels just fine. It's a whole lot snappier. The difference between this and that is this has bearings, so it's a lot smoother. It could get gunked up a lot faster if you're taking this to work and you work in a dirty environment. So that's something to really think about. But this one definitely has a much better plunge grind. It's literally all the freaking way back here. You could sharpen this thing till the cows come home, and it's a whole lot cheaper. So it's well under, I'd say like 75 bucks, well under there. You could also mount the clip on the other side so left-handed people can enjoy this. I have since modified this. I dyed the scales and I did an acid stone wash on the blade and sharpened it. I think it's like 17 degrees or something crazy like that. And it is a wonderful slicer, but because the stock thickness is thicker than the average, like just regular EDC knife, it does have that harder use kind of feel to it. And the weight on this thing, it's a little bit up there for what you'd think it is. We can go ahead and check it. 4.9. So yeah, there is a good bit of weight. It feels a whole lot more substantial in hand. You can get a good grip on it, even choking up. That might nick you a little bit if you have thicker with fingers, but for what it is, I think this is an incredible hard use knife. For the price, the materials, the build quality, it's good to go. I just wish that they included extra Omega springs and some extra hardware, because they don't, and it kind of sucks because there's a lot of value in here. Even if they were to charge a little bit more, I would definitely be grateful if they did. The blade material on here, if I didn't mention before, it's 14C28N, which is borderline budget super steel. You can strop it after a hard day's work, and you would be just fine for the next day as well. So this thing is highly recommendable. You know, essentially dirt cheap for how much knife you're actually getting here, and it's fun. The last one is one that I never actually made any like full length content on from what I remember. I don't even know the model of this, but this is a Y-Start knife, and I thought it was kind of gimmicky at first because it's just so like just ginormous, but I actually used this a good bit. And one of the cool little design features that I thought was a little gimmicky at first, but there's a pin. It sticks in down here. There are some threads. I don't know why it wasn't on this side. That's definitely a design flaw. It's actually designed by RIHE. So this is D2 blade material, so it's plenty tough. It does have a black wash coating on it. So it's going to help with some corrosion if that's something that you frequently deal with in your area, wherever you may be working at. But there is a pin that you could screw into the flipper tab there, and that keeps it from actually disengaging. So if that lock were to ever fail, it essentially needs to break the actual metal pin, or to completely just crack the G10. And G10 is very durable. That's why it is used in a lot of different knife designs. So with all the material that's here, all these contact points, this is going to be the hardest use knife in my collection, but the one that probably sees the least amount of use, because it is just overkill for anything I could possibly do in my current urban living environment. But it's still charming, it's fun to have. It is extremely thick and robust, not super thin behind the edge, so it's very thick, but you can still get a very good grip on this. There's a little harpoon right there with some kind of cheapy spaced out jimping, but that's just how it is. I think this guy is like well under like 40 bucks or something like that. If you consider the design, the materials, and how it was put together, the thicknesses of all these kinds of things, and it's very thick in hand for sure. That's a lot of knife for not a lot of money, so that's very impressive. My top pick, and the one that I absolutely use the most out of all these knives, is going to be my CMB Predator, just because of how inexpensive it is and just how wonderful it is day to day. I know that if I ever need to do anything a little bit inappropriate and do some like light digging or prying with a tip, I'm fine. Nothing's really gonna happen to this. Now, you're not gonna be prying open a bombshell door by any means, but you can do some stupid shit with this if you really needed to. And it's fun to fidget with the custom ability of moving the making the tension lighter or stronger. That's something that you can definitely option to do. And how much contact the actual bar itself rides up, that's a good bit of contact there. You would definitely need to like really mess up this knife for that to possibly fail. And it's good to go. The second one would probably be the MSI, because it's a great looking knife in my opinion. It is a little bit on the more tactical side, but it is good in hand and wonderful when it comes to the actual blade shape in use in my day to day. I go through a lot of cardboard and plastic in my place of work, but at home it fits in just fine. So those are the 5 knives that I have that are hard use in my collection. I don't really have anything that's like ridiculously crazy overbuilt. I don't have any cold steels. I don't care for cold steel designs. I think majority of them are butt ugly, but they have their place in the community for sure, definitely. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and leave a like down below. If you are subscribed, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support and your patience, of course. If you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing, because I put in more videos and content coming you guys' way. And with that being said, have a wonderful rest of your day.